this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm working through day 3 of By the Wall for God's Witness to the Wonder. Now, day 3 is talking about Abraham and Sarah and how they were promised a child even at their old age. And so we're talking about God's promises and how he is always faithful. And we read in Hebrews 10:23, "Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful." If you haven't seen any of my process videos for this month yet, I am working through a memory deck system. That is because there are 24 days to this devotional, and since it is the Advent season, I want to make sure to create something for each and every one of those days. And so by having a small canvas to work on, it makes it much more manageable. I knew I was also going to use a lot of the florals and tickets, so I decided to print them out at UPS the other day and take some time and fussy cut them out before I was going to work on this study. So that makes it super easy as well. So here I am just typing out promises on my Dymo embossing label maker. I did have that flashcard that said promises with the Bible reference. However, I have the Bible verse on the back side of this card, and it wasn't really going with the color scheme I was going with today. The card for today was pink, and I was trying to keep it a little bit more neutral since I had just done a pink card. I did really like a quote that I saw from Judy in the devotional. She wrote, "Doubt comes when we look at our circumstances rather than the promises and faithfulness of God." And I thought that was pretty deep and something that I need to remember always. And so I decided to type that out on some old ledger paper I had on my typewriter, and then I'm just going to add it into my cluster. I was having a little bit of a tricky time trying to figure out where I wanted that promises label, and it just didn't feel right in the cluster necessarily. So I decided to make a tab out of some of the papers that I had, and I'm just gonna put those back to back so that they are both brown. And then I'm going to need to cut off a little bit of the promises. We're gonna change it from promises to just promise, and then it will fit perfectly on that tab punch. Now, usually I would just staple this tab to the index card or whatever I was working on, but this is different because the backside matters. I don't want to see the backside of staples coming through on the other side of this memory decks card. So we're doing something a little different. We're doing like faux adhesion with brads, I guess. And so I am taking these brads and I'm going to color them with some alcohol ink. This is in the Alloy Statue, I believe, and I'm just making them gold a little bit. But once I matched them up with that brown tab, it kind of blended in too much. And so I grab some of the mushroom color as well to kind of grunge these up just a little bit. And I'm going to just let it sit for a second and then kind of dab it off on this paper towel. And then I will kind of thread those through the tab. And then I will use just regular glue to glue this to the front side of the card. So really these brads are doing nothing to hold the tab onto the card besides looking pretty, which is important. So that's why I decided to do it. It also adds a different texture to this card and just adds a little bit more interest. But speaking of interest, I did want to add a little bit more because it was seeming a little bit flat. I was trying to make a card without a bunch of chunk because, you know me, I really like chunk, but I know I need to fit 24 of these cards in my box. So instead of adding more chunk to it, I decided to grab my lace die set from Holtz. This is a super simple and sweet die set, although you do have to have something to puncture all the little holes out. It does take just a little bit of time, but it is well worth it. Now, honestly, at first I was just going to have this lace kind of peek out from the left-hand side of the floral on to the edge. And as I laid everything down, I realized that I needed more of it, but we'll get to that in a second. I don't want everything so straight, so I put the lace straight glued down, and then I'm going to put these both kind of cockeyed so that they don't look like I'm just splattering everything down flat. But yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. But anywho, I grabbed the floral, and here is where the chunk comes. I couldn't resist. I did end up adding just a little bit of foam tape to this floral. It doesn't add too much chunk, but once I laid that down and glue it down to the card, I realized that I really wanted to continue that lace past the floral on the right hand side because it just felt off and weird without having it together there. And so I just make it look like it's going through the floral and everything looks fine. But I still feel like I'm missing stuff on the front of this card, so here we go with some stamp surgery. I really liked the way one of these wonders was written, and it helped because it was at the top of the stamp, so I am cutting that little tiny wonder out and I'm going to stamp it below the lace. I do recommend using VersaFine ink because you're going to get the best impression with small stamps like this. And I also add my clear embossing powder. It's just a little scary at first because it looks like you're going to lose the whole stamp, but once you emboss it, it looks so pretty. I did realize that I didn't have the number date on this either, so I used that little Matthew alpha and put a number 3 on, and I couldn't resist adding some more embossing powder since the other word was embossed, so that worked out wonderfully. Now I'm going to start working on the back side, and we're going to keep it super simple. So all I'm doing is adding little lines of glue to all the veins in this floral piece, and then I'm going to take this actually over to my trash can and use the glitter duster so I can add some of that tinsel glitter. No matter what I do, this paper really likes glitter to be attached to it, so I do have to use my paintbrush to kind of swipe it off, but that is fine as well. I also add Nuvo drops to the center, and then this card is done. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can go ahead and follow me over on Instagram at Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I will link everything I use down below, and if you haven't seen day 2's process video yet, I'll link that next. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.